we'll see what comes of it here. Yeah, see, I see what you're saying. It's sitting logged in, and then of course, he's got the. I'll show you what he sees.
Finally. God dang.
Yep, fucking Max. Fucking
Yeah.
Max, man.
I know.
What happens every time. Look, you got it fixed.
Safari. What's up?
J Pink knows everything. What are you up to, wild man? You staying out of trouble?
Oh, yeah. Putting kids
Did you go to jail
bed.
this weekend?
No, not this weekend.
Me neither. Me neither. Thankful for it.
Not until the dogs play.
Not until the damn dogs play. I hear you. That's you gotta carry cash in your sock just in case. You gotta get you gotta carry your bail money on you, not in you, on you.
There's Steven. Oh, there he is.
Bro, you made it.
I know.
Tap dancing around back there. Shaylee. See, 1, 2, 3. Do y'all are y'all watching the thread? Is it? We don't need to look at anything in the thread, do we? Y'all have got all that?
I don't think so.
Is it? If I don't need to, I'm not on your Centipede lawn group.
Oh, like in that group chat?
No, on the actual
on the
Facebook
page,
group itself. Yeah. Y'all are gonna handle all that, right? I don't need to look at that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Just making sure. I've only got 4 monitors. And they're maxed
like
out
me.
right now.
Me at work.
What's DeMay? Is he frozen?
No, he is not logged in yet. That's just a generic background. He is getting real life shit put together. Kids going to bed and all that fun stuff. Does he want us to kick off without him, J Pink? Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell. It actually does kind of look like he wants us. I'm reading about things he had to get done in the background there, so I think he may want us to.
What are you drinking, Stevie?
Low bourbon whiskey.
Bourbon whiskey.
It's Penelope Toasted
School night.
Barrel.
That's a school night. That's right.
Oh, he's coming now. I never did it. When did I stop drinking on work days? It was a long time ago. Probably, really, once I got into lawn care, like from turf into lawn care, it was too much, man. Like the True Green days, True Green was so fucking brutal. It was impossible to drink anything after work aside from water, and to be able to function the next day. I mean, it's especially like starting May 1st through November 1st, man. I mean, it was just such a gosh damn grind. I mean, it was misery on a whole nother level. Put it this way. And this is in Memphis too. Now, don't get me wrong. Memphis is hot. It's not. Augusta, Georgia was hotter than Memphis for sure. But Knoxville's not even in the same realm as Memphis or Augusta, Georgia. But Memphis was way more on par with Augusta than Knoxville is. when we would come in the afternoons, we had a fucking station that was dedicated for people that were suffering from heat exhaustion. And people would come in the afternoon and they would be as white as a ghost, and fucking like. You're thinking to yourself, like, that guy drove a truck from 20 miles to his route, like back in that kind of condition, and is like shaking as he's making his way back in, and they sit him down in this fucking room and they're shoving popsicles in his mouth and fucking drinking pickle juice and everything else. It was every day. That was 6 days a week, and that was just, some days it was going to be your day, some days it wasn't going to be your day, but every fucking day there was multiple people being dragged in there, and looking back on it now, I'm like, that is fucking stupid and insane, psychotic, crazy as shit. Why were we doing that? But at the time, it was just like it was what everybody was doing. So
another Monday.
All they were saying while he's eating popsicles. Did you get that $1,000 in today? Because if not, I'm gonna need you to go back out,
dude. And let me tell you, our manager, our GM was, dude. He was such an asshole piece of shit. I mean, this guy took asshole to a whole new fucking level. He would be walking in the production room, and the fucking rehabilitation room was like off the side of it where they had like a kitchen and stuff, right? And so everybody's in there like laid out, just flayed like fish on the floor. And he's walking around in the production room, and he was like, I told everybody on fucking Monday, if you came in with less than $1,200, we're all fucking working Saturday. And guess how many came in with less than $1,200? 9 out of 36 did not hit 1,200. You're all fucked on Saturday. And everybody's just like, oh. Do you know how many Saturdays we got off? Zero. It didn't matter if you blew your goal fucking 10x what they said. You're still working fucking Saturday. And I mean, it was all bullshit. It was fluff, man. But that guy was the biggest fucking piece of shit in the entire world. It's so funny. They hired this young girl, fresh out of college, she was going to be branch manager, because this is when Terminex and True Green were still under the Service Master umbrella, right? So she was a fresh out of college. I think she was commercial sales manager for Terminex, something like that. It was a role that didn't really make sense for this chick to be in. But anyway, sure enough, 3 years later, he has fucking divorced his wife, having an affair with this young girl at the fucking office, and then they got married for approximately 6 months. He got her pregnant, and then he fucking disappeared. He took another regional manager job, like somewhere else in the South, and fucking just left her by herself with a baby at 23 years old. And anyway, it's just typical True Green shit. My sales manager fucking OD'd on cocaine on a company sponsored trip in Jamaica. So, it is. It's a different time back then. Ole Miss boys fucking blowing mountains of yayo in the fucking bathroom of the True Green hotel suite, and probably steps out on the balcony of fucking has the big one.
Probably good that you left True Green before the bath salts chapter came into play.
Oh, dude, it was so crazy. Like, all right, so in the winter, the techs that ran like out in the country, you worked in the sales room, right? Because typically you didn't have the routes that had fucking 6,000 accounts in them or whatever. So, man, in the sales room, those guys were a completely different breed of human being, and this is like during the pain pill epidemic too. Man, they're in there chopping up oxycodones and fucking snorting lines of those, and then getting on the phone, cold calling people with True Green, and they're just drooling all over talking. And obviously, cocaine was not frowned upon in this place, given that the sales manager was just constantly skeeted to the bone. And man, and there was a guy that came in and he went into the bathroom and he came out and he wigged out, just screaming that he's gonna fucking die. He did something, and this is it. You got to call 911 right now. I'm fucking dying. And Joey, the branch manager, would not call 911, and he's like, "We're not fucking calling the cops. No one fucking call the cops. We're gonna sit here and wait this out." It took like 30 minutes for this dude to fucking come down, like, back to reality. Rumor has it, I don't know what rumor has it was that he IV'd coke in the bathroom, and like the train whistles went off in his head, and he wigged the fuck out, and they just kept him calm until he came back down. I don't know if that's exactly what happened or not, but that was the rumor mill that we all heard.
What year was this, Matt?
Oh God, 08? Oh no, 9, 10.
08?
09, 10, yeah, 9 and 10.
Wow. This is all ultra foreign to me, because I know by the time I was, in the industry by year 2000, that is when, we're at least here in Hawaii, everybody, and I mean everybody, got fucking drug tested monthly. Drug tested. No. I mean, go. Yeah, here you go. Go pee in a cup. I mean,
this is the level of drug testing at True Green in that day. You go for your interview, and they're like, "Good, you're breathing. By the way, the gas station on the corner right here sells piss in a bottle. You can get it, put a hand warmer on it, and then pour that in the cup when you take your drug test. It's the only one you'll have to take."
Wow,
okay.
Wow, that's incredible, Matt, because it's called monthly, and what would happen here is that the technician from the testing place would show up at the workplace now, and they'd be giving people the cup, as they enter the restroom. And on top of that, what if I told you that that day of testing was never announced? How's that?
Shit.
Never announced. It's like, okay, everybody, can everybody stay back for an hour? The drug tester is here.
I mean, when I was at True Green, I bet there was maybe 3 of us that could pass a drug test. Probably 3 of us that could. When I went to work at other places, like when I went to Fairway Lawns, I don't think maybe one person couldn't pass a drug test there, and like maybe they would smoke a joint on the weekend or something, nothing crazy. But it was, to go from like True Green and then the various places I worked before I got to Fairway Lawns, like Fairway Lawns was,
you better get out of here.
A totally different experience. It was like fun. I mean, that was more about. It was a shitload more personal responsibility going to work there, right? And it was like, it is your responsibility to grow this fucking route, to grow your fucking section of the business, and you're going to do it, or there's someone waiting in line to do it. And if you do it, then we're going to pay you to do it. We'll pay you well to do it, and then you have opportunity to move up with the company. And it was very legitimate, and it was structured that way, and it was designed to put the onus of responsibility on you to do better, right? And it worked out that way. And you could tell even by the people that were like in line to come work there, right? I mean, everybody was strange. We were all either in serious relationships, recently married, or recently had kids, right? Everybody fit that same framework. There was one older dude who had been there for like 18 years, and then management, of course, had all been there, fucking 18, 20, 25 years or whatever. So, it was a completely different get up than True Green, which was like the boiler room, Wall Street, fucking just madness, chaos. And so it was a nice transition. It was a lot of fun. You're like, oh wow, lawn care can be fun. This is great. Yeah, J-Ping, we are good. DeMay, but please introduce yourself to DeMay. DeMay's going to have to dip a little bit early because he's got to get on a flight at 5 a.m. But anyway, I want DeMay to get a chance to meet you guys as well too.
Definitely.
Okay. I'll go first then. I'm Brandon. Nice to meet you finally. A long time listener, first time caller kind of deal. I am a spray tech in South Georgia, about an hour away from Chad, which is the guy to your right on the bottom right. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. But I appreciate y'all for having us on. It's good to meet you guys. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
What's up, guys? I'm Steven. I hadn't met Ray and I hadn't met Ryan, so it's awesome to meet you guys. Same with Brandon. I've watched the show for a hot minute now, several years now. I really only got into lawn care like back in like 2018, just as like a homeowner. My job as like my daytime job, I work for United. I'm a sales rep for United, so I know all about the boiler room sales nonsense that goes on because I deal with it every day, which is probably why I'm drinking on a Sunday. But yeah, in part-time, I do some consulting work for homeowners and slang a little flirt. So that's pretty much who I am. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, my name's Chad. Yeah, I've been watching the Grass Factor for a while, actually, a long time. Back when Matt was, I think it was called the Lawn and Garden Show back then.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching a while. I followed Ray probably 10 plus years, I guess, stemming from Lawn Site and Lawn Forum.
Oh my God! Another stalker, Matt. Another stalker. Good Lord.
Yeah, back in the day when Matt was on there, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a lurker though. I did not participate too much on Lawn Site. And
Yeah,
if I did, it would be
I
under various like dummy accounts.
Yeah, it was just me going on there basically and looking to see what Ray said.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So I guess all that has kind of influenced a lot of the things that we actually do, which has influenced me and influenced Brandon and influenced Steven and pretty much everybody in our whole group kind of stems from that.
Wow.
Really. Comes from
Wow.
that, yeah.
I mean, yeah, because I thought of myself as the Centipedegrass renegade.
Yeah.
You know, don't do what everybody else is doing to Centipede because it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's right. It definitely doesn't. The centipede is a different animal for sure. You know, I think one of the things that probably turned it around for me and I guess most everybody now is stumbling upon Ray and the no muriate of potash thing. You know, I mean, that made a really big impact. You know?
I've done some stupid shit to centipede, and not once have I ever had centipede decline. And I've done some stupid shit. And I think it's all that completely related to the sulfate of potash. Like it just seems like that was the constant.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
I feel very good. I feel very good about that.
You know, using sulfate of potash or potassium nitrate instead of muriate of potash is, I guess, your little bit of safety margin where as long as you get that right, you're allowed to FAFO a little bit, just a little. I mean, that's, and yet, I remember on Lawn Site having some dickhead from Montana.
Oh yeah, Skippy.
Yeah, you know him.
He knows his name.
Fucking dickhead from Montana telling me that muriate of potash does not cause decline of centipede. And I'm thinking,
I remember well.
Wanna bet? I mean, because all it takes, at least here in Hawaii, and why nobody has a centipede lawn anymore is that old bag of 16 made with MOP, MAP, and urea goes We'll spread that out on the centipede lawn a couple of times. You won't have the centipede lawn anymore. It's gone. It just wipes out. Done.
We got to push this live. We're 9:21. J Pink, go ahead and give it the full send, and then the after intro we will do the fun bit. I'll shut the fuck up.
Business owners, entrepreneurs, family
I am not
men,
capable of
it's
doing
difficult
that.
for
I'm
us
going
to
to stomp
find
all
the
over
time
this.
to put together projects like these, even though it's something we really want to do.
Hey, do you know where I get from,
Unfortunately,
DeMay?
taking care of the things we have to
Any
take
idea?
care of comes
As a matter of
first.
fact, I do.
However,
Oh,
because of viewer
DeMay,
support,
dude,
people like
if
you,
that guy's
who are able
ever
continue
going to
doing
drive
this,
to my
please
house
consider
to
joining our
execute me,
Patreon
this is
and supporting the
I'm
Burn
telling
and
you.
Return podcast.
It is. I don't stand a chance. Oh yeah.
You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries.
Oh, it's me. Oh, it's you.
Oh,
Who?
I was off my A game there. Okay, so all right, hang on. Let me get this out of the way. First and foremost, we are not doing a regular episode of Burn and Return tonight. You know why? Because we can't. That's why. So I'm gonna ask everyone to hold hands with me and get off my duts because we are doing something a little different this evening. I have had the gracious opportunity to meet several gentlemen in a Facebook community. It is called the Centipede Lawn Care. What is it? How's this all? Centipede Lawn Care and Turf Sciences Group, right? And it is a group of fine young gentlemen. There might be a few ladies in there. I honestly have no idea. Looks like yes, there are some women in there as well too that are interested in just doing things as good as they possibly can. And it's going to be a mix, kind of like you see on our show here, of professional applicators and homeowners as well. And what they reached out to us and said, you know, hey, a couple things. Number one is we would love to do something a little different with you guys. What if we open up a thread in the group and you guys can, you know, kind of take it, you know, one-on-one and you know, make it more of a dedicated show for the people that are in our group. And said, yeah, absolutely, 100%, we will do that. And as you know, a byproduct of that, they were going to help with our WeCareLawnCare.info project that we have going on as well there too. So giving a little bit more love to the St. Jude thing that we've got going on there. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. We're doing things a little different tonight. From a scheduling standpoint, it just worked out easier. A little bit of housekeeping. DeMay is going to have to dip early because he's got to be on an airplane at 5:00 in the morning, and I don't miss that, and I don't envy that. Not one bit, especially in today's pilot climate. Oh God, is Driver going to be your pilot? By the way,
oh dear,
I am flying an airline that he greatly disparages and despises. So no, and I did that on purpose too, to feed into the capitalist pigs at Delta.
Yes. By the way, I have a credit card in my wallet right now, and it is an American Express Delta card. Because let's be honest, that if you want to enjoy your flight, you typically fly Delta. If you don't want to, you can pick any of the other airlines. That's all I'll say about that. All right. That being said, let's go ahead and bring on the other boys. Oh, by the way, J Pink, would it be possible to go ahead and just push this live to YouTube instead of a local recording? Is it too late to do that? I know he can't talk to me right now, but I'll get some feedback in the chat. And so anyway, I was thinking, J Pink, clap 3 times if you're still alive. Do I need to call 911?
You are a fucking listener.
Yeah, these Centipede guys are probably never going to come back ever.
I know.
Can we play the video? Can we play the intro video that we were going to?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that when we get the rest of it figured out. Maybe.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill O'Reilly. That was exactly what we needed to kick this off. I'm not gonna lie. That was exactly what we needed. Anyway, all right, we've got gentlemen. Just take a second. State your names real quick. Brandon, we'll start with you. Just that way, we'll keep it in order based on how everybody sees you, and then we'll start jumping into the fun part.
Oh, I'm introducing myself. Okay, Brandon. It's nice to meet y'all. I'm a spray tech in South Georgia, a couple of miles away from Chad. First time on the show. Appreciate y'all, having us out and answering a few questions that our group members have. But I've been introduced to y'all from Chad actually, and I just, on the way to work, in the truck, listening to y'all right before I get on the dang sprayer and sweat my balls off every day during the summer. Some really good information from y'all. Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm drinking bourbon. I'm gonna sweat it out in about 10 o'clock tomorrow. But yeah, it's really appreciate y'all again, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Steve, who are you? What are you doing? Are you hammered yet?
No. Hopefully I won't get hammered. But yeah, what's up, guys? I don't believe you. My name's Stephen Cheney. I'm an admin in the Centipede group. My day job is I work for United Rentals. I'm a territory manager for United Rentals. And not part-time, but like my side gig is I slang some FERT to homeowners and do some consulting work for homeowners. I'm super appreciative to be on the show and super appreciative of everything that you guys do. So much of my philosophy about turfgrass comes from you guys. Chad, like Brandon said, was who introduced me to you guys, and that's all I've been the full time. It's just grass factor. What's Ray gonna say? What's Ryan gonna say? What's Matt gonna say? What are their opinions on it? And that's gospel. And then let's go read some research papers and some fungicide. Let's go read some labels, right? So yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad.
Hey, Matt, the dinosaur.
The dinosaur. I joke about Chad's age all the time. He's not that old. Ray, he's your age. But I also bust Ray's balls as well for being as old as a dinosaur. And trust me, I hear both of your bones as you're sitting in your chairs, rocking back and forth over there. So
that's great. Yeah, I'm just trying to grow Centipede mainly, and St. Augustine, just trying to keep it alive. Done lots and lots of research, lots of trial and error, and probably like the rest of you have had lots of bad experiences with it and learned a lot from that more than anything else.
Yeah, and if y'all can't hear the South Georgia accents that are coming here, one, it is one of the most charming accents in the world, and we can we'll take Kenny Cooper for contrast, right? Who's from Chicago, and that is probably the worst accent you've ever heard, and then you hear the South Georgia accent, and it is incredibly pleasing to the ear. To the asshole Wisconsinites like Supernova and Michiganders like Driver. I eat all of my balls, gentlemen, because the accents we have on tonight are high quality, and y'all sound like trash. All right, we'll go ahead. Yeah, we'll kick this off. Yeah, so wherever y'all want to start, feel free. The floor is yours.
You want to start with some questions, Stephen?
I can start with questions. Here's a solid question. Best pre-program walking. This is from Patrick Beeman. I think Matt knows Patrick. He's in our group here.
Patrick's
best
awesome.
pre-program. Walking the fine line of root pruners, tenacity, gallery, prodiamine, outside of sound fertility, 1 to 2 pounds of N and K annually with AMS SOP. Is there a benefit to other turf needs? So good fertility, and what's a great pre-emergent strategy for Centipede?
Ray, I know what yours is going to be on this, and I'll say this is that I don't know if there is a surefire, like 100% best way to get this done in a professional lawn care setting with the idea that you're going to treat a 5,000 square foot lawn for $60. You know what I'm saying? So if you adopt that program of trying to compete from a price standpoint within plus or minus 10% of the competition in your area, are you going to be able to run a root pruner free pre-emergent program? Chances are not affordably, not at 20% or 25% product cost margins. And it's just, that's kind of the nature of the beast. And if that's where you need to be, I know some larger outfits may need to be at 18% or 15% product cost margins, right? And you're sure as shit not going to get that done at $60 for a 5,000 square foot yard or 4,000 square foot yard, right? So now can you design a program to do it? Fuck, yeah, you could. And it would be awesome, and you'll love it. Ray, and I think Ray's the perfect example of this. Ray, when you can accomplish whatever you want, but it comes down to what you're willing to spend, right? IPM, right? Ray?
Yeah, I pay materials, and I also consider sod or seed when that turf area crashes and burns a material that I factor into my costs. So a more safe program can turn out to be the better value versus losing that turf area. And as far as pre-emergence go, prodiamine. Let's talk about prodiamine. Prodiamine can be a very good crabgrass and even goosegrass pre-emergent. I'm not going to fault that or deny that. However, when it comes to using prodiamine for other weeds besides crabgrass and goosegrass and foxtail, even, it tends to fall short. And that is where, on centipede especially, given how touchy centipede is about broadleaf herbicides, I tend to think that gallery starts to become a rather good idea.
Mm-hmm. What about combining things like a gallery and prodiamine in that instance? Or even, all right, hey, gallery's good, but you've already got money invested on the prodiamine side. What about a simazine or atrazine? Toss into that.
That is a good strategy, because here's my idea is that when I'm treating centipede, I keep my rates of root pruners low and then backfill that with something that is more active on broadleaf weeds. And Matt, you just said simazine or atrazine. What I know simazine and atrazine for is rather strong control of a lot of broadleaf weeds. That's what I know those products for. So I can imagine lower rates of prodiamine, backfill that with simazine, and if you have the budget, then you turn to using something like gallery, because actually I consider simazine to be particularly useful in a special case, and that is not for summer broadleaf weed control. I actually would incorporate that into my fall and winter POA control program instead. And did somebody mention tenacity? Because here's where I would put that simazine app. I would put it into the app that goes down for the first emergence of POA in the winter. Simazine plus tenacity. Because what happens when you apply simazine plus tenacity together is it becomes extremely effective above and beyond what tenacity alone will do to broadleaf weeds and POA. It will fry it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that can you get away with using spectacle on it? Yeah, but it's a gamble, right? And that's you've got to weigh what level of risk are you willing to incur, right? Because a foobar with spectacle is a little different than a foobar with, say, simazine and tenacity, right? Like your rate of recovery, your ability to fill grass back in after that, which with centipede is going to be a bit of a chore anyway. It's not like you can go pound it with 6 pounds of end and keep it cut at a half inch. Yeah, right. It's going to take a fair amount of time to get the damn job done, right? So, and then the other aspect of it too that is a big thing to keep into consideration is winter kill, right? Where I know where Beeman is. Beeman's up further north into North Carolina. He has to deal with winter kill, right? And so when you start talking about losing 100 square feet to winter kill, 500 square feet to winter, 1,000, 3,000 square feet to winter kill, right? Like you can work for you and it can work against you. You've utilized spectacle in that instance, but you lost 3,000 square feet to winter kill. It's got to be replaced anyway. Whether you use prodiamine or simazine or tenacity, doesn't matter. You're already into sod replacement, right? So it's at that point, you have to, it's like, you see what I'm saying? You have an out that is not your responsibility for the turfgrass failing, right? That's nature that caused it to fail. You did the best you could from a weed control perspective, and so it's got to factor into all of the equation. Chad, I'm curious, where do you like to lie? Do you err on the side of risk with spectacle from time to time? Is it situational? Do you only sometimes use it? Is it year round? What do you look like?
That's a great question, and that's something I've been playing with for a while now. And over the last year, I didn't run any root pruners at all. I ran 0 root pruners. I didn't really see like a big problem with it either. I ran mostly tenacity, atrazine, simazine. I had some select yards where I ran gallery, and I tried to utilize sulfentrazone as a pre-emergent. I have a problem with it turning the grass brown. So, once we get to dormancy, I don't have a problem with it. But, just trying to use sulfentrazone can be a little tricky just because it does turn the grass brown, not necessarily damage it, but,
Yep. There's a recovery period.
There is some bronzing that is caused by your sulfentrazone, but the thing about that is what you get out of it. And what I get out of sulfentrazone applied correctly is broad spectrum, broadleaf, and sedge control. That's what I get out of it. And that control is not only post-emergent, but it's also a pre-emergent. So I'm getting dual duty out of that application. When would you be timing your sulfentrazone, if I may ask?
Well, I was trying to time it after the grass went dormant, which here, when it's like brown dormant, was about January. Is when I would do it on some yards.
And that's like a perfectly reasonable strategy because sulfentrazone plus tenacity, for example, is another powerful combination for weed control.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like another tool in the toolbox when you need it, and there's benefits above and beyond the initial post-emergent control. So I think that's a good strategy. That's I've used that as well, and it's paid off.
Yeah,
quite
so
well.
this was the first year that I've actually been through it and didn't really use a traditional pre-emergence, and I may do it again this year. You know, most warm season grasses, the program is 2 split apps of spectacle in the fall, and then follow that up with either prodiamine or dimension in the spring. But yeah, I went completely away from that. Tried something totally different than pretty much anybody else was doing. And I can say the grass greened up probably better than ever before when I did that, especially with the centipede. You know, didn't really struggle coming out of green up, even though centipede's pretty bad about waking up. It's still pretty ugly trying to transition to green up. But yeah, I'd say this was probably the best year I've had with it.
Brandon,
it's not.
What do y'all look like? Are you balls deep into the rooters, or are you avoiding it?
Yeah, kinda. I'm not really fond of it, but I work for a guy that obviously he has the final say so of what he wants to do. I kind of put in input, whatever. We run spectacle, but I mean, we always have, we have some breakthrough here and there. We've used Dimension before, Prodiamine, the usual split app kind of deal. But the rates we run with Spectacle is normally kind of like a 60 to 90 day rates. But like Chad was saying, with the root pruners, especially with Zawzia and Centipede, waking up throughout dormancy has been prolonged than usual that I've seen. But it's hard to say. I'd like to be like, you know what, let's try something different. But he has his final say so. But I kind of give input to where, okay, this is not a good idea, or stuff like that. But it's hard to say. But we normally run Spectacle most of the time, and Prodiamine. It comes down to cost too. We can't run a 3-way tenacity gallery or tenacity simazine or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just comes down to cost to the end of the day.
Gallery is just so expensive.
Yeah, per 1,000. Per acre.
It's costly. It's costly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I would only use gallery for one thing. I would only use gallery for absolutely one specific circumstance. Even that is not a general broadleaf pre-emergent. I only employ that in instances where spurge is an issue.
Spurge.
Other than that, I choose something else.
Chamber bitter. It's pretty effective with chamber bitter too. All right. So the reason why I bring it up is I don't think there is a again, Brandon, like you said, you don't like it, and I want to stress that I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer here. It kind of all plays into the calculus of it all, right? And you have to accept a certain amount of bad, right? But you get the flip side of it is that you get an overall greater level of weed prevention, right? And then what you have to take into account from that point too is what you can expect in your specific market as well too, right? So will your market allow for the weed pressure on the early part of the spring, right? Or is it going to be one of those, like, it's two totally different deals. When I was in Memphis, no one gave a shit if the grass was green, especially when I worked like way out in the counties, like in Fayette County and stuff. This is all reclaimed, hay fields and pastures and shit. And they're like, I don't want to see a weed ever. I don't care what my grass looks like. I don't want to have to mow it. I don't want to see a weed. It can be as brown as the Sahara Desert, but I do not want to see a weed. And that's just the way it is. And this is back in the day. And of course, you did whatever you had to do to make sure it looked that way. Now that versus like Knoxville does not give a shit about weeds in the yard as long as it's green. That's what they want. Screaming green, 247, 365. And it was a weird kind of thing for me to make that adjustment. I even say in Augusta, it was kind of strange in that way too, was that if it was green for the Masters, that was the only thing they cared about, right? So if you got to go overseed with 20, 30 pounds per thousand of perennial ryegrass, zoysia grass to have it green for the Masters, that's the only thing they cared about, all 80% of the zoysia dies after that, right? And you're like, man, that was a terrible idea. Why would anybody do that? But it's it is what it is. That's what they so every market is going to be a little bit different, and that has to play into what you can expect, right? But the reality is Beeman, that Beeman, for you specifically, you've got to make that judgment call. But yes, it can be done multiple different ways. It's just figuring out does it fit the budget? What are you willing to spend on it and all that fun stuff too. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
What else we got?
Here's a guy, Michael Herring. He has 2 questions. With centipede preferring acidic soil, should lime be added to centipede to raise pH if lower than 5.5? And if pH is too high for centipede, should attempts be made to lower pH or just switch grass types? So that's probably one good question. Let's go with that one first.
The only time I would think where liming centipede would be necessary is if you have toxic levels of like aluminum or lead in your soil or something. Ray, what would you say on that?
I'd probably say the exact same thing. Is only time I would consider adjusting pH, and I do it extremely carefully in centipede, is if I were looking at pH sub 5 soil, like down to 4.5, and I got red flagged as either aluminum toxic or manganese toxic. Then manganese I would consider, then I would then consider raising that up to 5, but not much higher. Not much higher. I mean, it is very rare to find soils where you actually need to do that. Mm-hmm. It's rare.
How about going the other way?
Oh, bringing it down.
So bringing it down.
Oh man,
sitting at 7.5.
Okay, you know what I'd say to them?
Switch turf types.
Yes, time to consider a beautiful iron cutter or Tahoma 31 lawn. I got your attention, Ryan.
Yeah, especially if you're high in phosphorus.
Yeah, especially, and in fact, we had one of our friends on the Discord who had to do that because his dad had been throwing down 111 on his centipede lawn every year, and finally the centipede, declined on him, and so we told him, I think it's time for your dad to have a Bermuda lawn because I don't think centipede can grow there anymore. It's done.
We had a mod who had a stupid high pH and stupid high phos, but kept the centipede lawn, and it looked nice for a little while, right? I mean, it looked pretty good, but it declined, and he fought tar, he fought everything under the sun, and he's moved out of that house since. But
that was the yard I sent you, Ray, on the Discord. I think I sent you his soil test and everything. This was a while back,
right?
Yeah,
right,
and
right,
you said,
right.
I think you said,
I feel like you can
grow something else or something like that. I remember.
Yeah, I think I said that as well. We're looking at it realistically. I'm not sure centipede could grow there and be healthy long term. And the owner of that lawn, I have concerns about his mental health because he would lose his mind trying to keep that grass alive under those conditions.
Yeah,
it's
just saying.
Like if you have high pH but you have low phos, I've seen it be very workable. If you have high phos and low pH, I've seen it be very workable. But if you have high phos and high pH, you're screwed.
Plus, it was so weird. He was on almost sand too, just straight sand.
Yeah. Like like it was sand capped. Like there was nothing but sand. It was wild.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is insane. I mean, I'd probably say that I've also seen centipede turf on that high pH and high phos levels as well. But then here's what is the nail in the coffin, I find. Any kind of external source of salt, specifically excessive chlorides. That is where things go really bad really fast. I mean, because I've seen people keep centipede in places where theoretically it shouldn't work, but I notice the differential is that turf does not receive any kind of chlorides or salt ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the difference. And so with those people, their grass does fine as long as they fertilize that with absolutely nothing, and they just water it and mow it.
So here's the second half of his question, which I think is very interesting. Could nitrogen fertilizer amount go over 2 pounds per year to repair damaged or bare areas, or would this likely lead to decline? Question mark. If so, what would be a better way to repair areas?
Whoa.
It's a crapshoot. I
Yeah.
will just say from personal
crapshoot.
experience, look, there have been, I don't know, 300 lawns. I've probably been in excess of 4 pounds per thousand of nitrogen on centipede because of winter kill. And the number of ones that had ill effects were like 3 out of that. Now my own personal home lawn, was centipede as well, and probably in excess of 6 pounds of N. And in property line to property line, it did not green up again ever. It was toast. It was done. So it's in my experience, it's just a crapshoot. What do you think, Ray? Like, are you okay from a repair perspective in this instance? How likely, like, what percent of damage or area? What percent of area that you would want to grow in would you have to see for you to say, okay, I'm going to run 3 pounds in this time versus just being like, all right, I'm going to grab half a pallet of sod or whatever, or I'm going to plug it.
Okay, I probably say my cutoff is 10%. And I even include that 10% as areas that look a little thin or weak. Yeah. I'm not even talking about absolutely bare areas, because absolutely bare areas, I'm looking at seed or sod to repair that area right now, because it is going to take too long to grow back. It's just going to take too darn long. And I know that the danger of thinking you're going to push the existing turf to grow a little bit more with nitrogen is that is okay until it's not okay, and you've caused the whole thing to decline because it's gotten too much in. And now you have a bigger problem on your hands.
And what's the predictability of that, though? And that is why I hate this grass type more than anything on the face of the planet. You can't.
What's the threshold, right? That's my question. What's the threshold, and what's the mechanism that's actually happening that's going to push the grass into decline?
I don't know.
Especially if you're mitigating the other issues, right? So excessive thatch, so that kind of thing, or you're not allowing it to store enough carbohydrates before it goes dormant. So if you take those factors out and you just pushed high in, theoretically, shouldn't it work? And you kept up with K, right? So you kept up with other nutrients.
Kept up with your K. Yeah, you kept up with your K, and also other factor that plays in, and I find that this plays in too, is when people talk about pushing a lawn with N, what is their actual nitrogen source? because I got into this debate with somebody as well, because he also, the same person that told me it doesn't matter if muriate of potash is used as your K source on centipede, he then proceeded to also tell me it doesn't matter if my nitrogen comes from urea. Okay, I mean, I was told that one because, true story, I have applied rather aggressive rates of ammonium sulfate on centipede and not have it go badly on me. But then I'm talking about applying 1/10 to 2/10 of a pound of N per month on that centipede with at least an equivalent amount of potassium with potassium nitrate. And that has been okay as far as promoting growth and color and all the things that you want fertilizer to do. But understand that you're not going to find a pre-mixed bagged fertilizer containing those elements in them. It's not going to happen. So
absolutely not.
yeah. So here's the
Chad,
thing.
let me get in your head real quick. How much have you gone the route of selecting like ammonium nitrate or potassium nitrate and just going ape shit on your N rates to see if you can cross the threshold?
I did last year, like the year before. I went with ammonium sulfate and potassium sulfate on a few yards, and probably went 4 or so pounds of N, trying to grow some in. And I didn't really notice any more ill effects than the yard was already suffering. Of course, it was pretty bad, so that's why I was trying to push it so hard. So so I was kind of hard with it, but you know, if I went 4 pounds of N, it probably got 5 to 6 pounds of K at pretty much the same time. So it's a lot.
And that,
you know,
that may be
or grow in.
That may be the factor there, right, Steve? Is that, you know, again, removal rates of centipede are not going to be removal rates of Bermuda, and where it gets even weirder is that individual cultivars are going to have different removal rates too, right? Like I know Patriot Bermuda grass is one of those that it has a weird removal rate compared to, say, like TIF 419, right? You know, if I recall correctly, I think Patriot Bermuda was closer to like a 1-to-1 removal rate. And that was, you know, not like a luxury thing either. That was just what it typically was removing.
Needed. Yes.
Yeah. So kind of an oddball, you know, out of left field. Now the difference between, you know, Tiff Blair and whatever other centipede you run out there are going to be different removal rates. I don't know if you're going to push it above a 2-pound threshold that you need to have, you know, if we'll call it a 1 to 2 removal rate for centipede, or a 2 to 3 removal rate for centipede. So basically, for every 2 units of nitrogen you apply, you remove 3 units from the soil, right? This is for people listening. You know, so you apply 2 pounds of N, your removal rate, what your centipede is going to actually try to pull from the soil, is going to be 3 pounds, right? Because your nitrogen load will determine the rest of the nutrients that you're removing from the soil, right? So we'll go with that removal rate, you know, 2 to 3 or 1 to 2, right? So if you want to push it above 2 pounds in, so you want to get into 4, you know, you got to make sure that, you know, you're going to be in the, you know, shit, you know, high, you know, 8 pounds of N you may be having to go out with, or 6 pounds of N. I'm sorry, 6 pounds of K, 6 pounds of K to support your 4 pounds of N that you're applying at a 2 to 3 removal rate, right?
You know what's beautiful about centipede grass? Centipede grass
Nothing.
will quickly tell you.
I was going to say thank you, Ray.
I know,
Let's talk
man.
about something positive.
Yeah, centipede grass will rapidly tell you when it is running low on K. It'll quickly tell you, right? Because what happens to centipedes that's running low on K is that it starts to turn bronze and purple. And I had to learn this and absorb this because I always, you know, as a classically trained agronomist, always associated purple with phosphorus deficiency. in centipede grass, that's incorrect. In centipede grass, that turns that bronzy purple color when it is running very low on K. And a lot of people, they see that purple and they think, oh my gosh, we are low phosphorus. Let's hammer it. Don't do that to centipede. Instead, when it starts turning purple like that, I'm thinking, I think it's time for an application of 13-0-45. It's time for that.
I'm looking for a paper that shows removal rate. Evie brought up a good point. What about the micronutrients or minor nutrient removal rates too to support that? Now, I'll say this too, is that typically most soils are going to have enough because again, they're micronutrients, right? Very, very, very little is going to be removed, and so typically most soils are going to be sufficient in it, right, to be able to handle that. But are you going to cause any problems by playing it safe and throwing in some foliar micronutrients a few times through the season just to make sure everything's going to be okay? Only upside, right, of what I see.
You mean to tell me that we can't apply boron to centipede? What now?
Washing special boron. There's very, very special boron for that.
So DeMay and I have been playing around. We found this boron-rich Tide at the store, and we're using it as a 1-2 surfactant boron punch, right? So you get a great wetting agent effect plus boron. We think we're going to get it white labeled, and we're going to sell it under the Grass Factor, the Grass Factor secret sauce, and it's going to be sponsored by Spencer, and it'll be just be a beautiful thing.
The color on your lawn won't fade either because it's Tide.
Yeah. Tide doesn't fade colors. I remember that that claim is that it don't fade colors because Tide is good stuff. So bring on the boron, guys. Bring it on. And in fact,
I can't wait to bring this to market. This is going to be the greatest thing. In fact, we're going to recommend people apply it at the rate of get a second mortgage, invest it all into us, and just apply as much of it as you can.
Lawn pods.
Chad, we're going to ask you. We're going to sponsor your business, and we just ask you to put it on YouTube as much as you can, and just say whatever you want about it, as long as it's good. All right, what else you got for us, Steve? This is a joke for people that are listening that don't know. That is a giant joke. It is not real.
I got one.
What you got, Brandon?
Let's see. I'd pose a question because we had a lot of questions about iron and iron sources and all this stuff. So I posted a question in the thread. Said, I'd like for some light to be shed on the multitude of iron sources that are on the market. What is the difference between sources, say, EDTA, DDPA, EDDHA, versus sources like iron oxides, humates, and sucrates? And what are the benefits of sources?
All right. So this is, there's I'll keep this as simple as possible, right? If you are applying a liquid versus a granular, right? If you're a liquid, you have a lot more flexibility as far as what you can do. If you're applying a granular, you have very limited flexibility as far as what you can do. If it's a granular and it is not an EDDHA, it is not an EDTA, it is not a HPTA or whatever else, chances are it's not effective. There is a way to homogenize it in such a way to make it effective, but your cost to do that, and you're not going to see that except for in a very hyper specific manufacturing setting. No one is doing that, so your chances are you're not going to find it. So that means sulfate, oxide, oxysulfate, humate. You can pretty much crumple it up and throw it out and be done with it. Okay. But if you are making a foliar application, then the world's your oyster there, right? You can't find typically iron oxide as a foliar, right? Because it doesn't dissolve in water. So Now we're going to see more of like the nano suspension showing up with it, but we'll save that for a later day. So right now we'll just say iron oxide as a liquid isn't a thing, just to keep it simple. So really the world's your oyster as far as sulfate, EDTA, EDDHA, all that fun stuff, right? Glucoheptanate's another one too. Now what you have to make the judgment call is your cost per application. If you're growing centipede, chances are you're in a low pH soil situation, right? So you have the benefit there of making an application of a sulfate, and you will still get some root action out of it even after you make your foliar application. But chances are you don't even really need it, because iron sulfate is a salt. It's going to get into the plant really easily. It is not hard to get iron sulfate into a plant. And so, your cost per thousand of that is going to be cheaper than everything else that's out there. In my opinion, I would only be using iron sulfate unless I have something else in the tank that would require protection from that iron molecule, right? Like if you're also applying like a phosphite or something, right? You're not going to be able to mix a phosphite and iron sulfate. That's, rest in peace. But you can use iron EDDHA or iron EDTA and mix it with the phosphite and make that application. You're fine, because that chelate will fully protect it from reacting with the phosphite ion, right? But if you're just making micronutrient applications, you can get a standard off-the-shelf sulfate powdered blend, dissolve it into your tank, and go spray it all day long. You're going to get enough foliar uptake out of there to get every bit of that color response that you want. Now, if you can only get a blend of an EDTA in a liquid or whatever, that's fine too, no problem. But what you're relying on a little bit there is that less of it is going to make its way into the plant via the leaf. More of it will make it into the plant via the root. It's going to be a little bit slower response. And if you've ever run iron sulfate versus iron EDTA side by side, I think you'll see one responds a hell of a lot faster than the other. I say a hell of a lot, but in comparison, it's faster, right? And that's because that chelation is, one, you're relying on the root. Two is the size of the iron molecule, right? It doesn't mean that it's not going to get into the plant. It will. It's just, it's going to be a little bit gentler, slower. Come on. DeMay, you're staring at me. Did I say something crazy?
No.
Okay. I'm just making sure I didn't. I thought I said something ass backwards or something. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Then and that would go on with EDDHA. Now, if you have a pH above a 5.5, and you're choosing between like EDTA and EDDHA, say you've got a soil pH of like 6.5, right? And again, you got a pH of 6.5. You can spray iron sulfate all day long. It's going to turn shit really, really green, but you're not going to get basically any of it that does not make its way in through the leaf. It's not going to get into the root system, not with that single app. Right now, root exudates and all that fun stuff, it'll make its way into the plant over a period of years and years and years and years. But it's not going to give you that immediate wow factor that you get when you make a micronutrient application, right? No one is out there applying micronutrients, expecting zero return on investment in color. The whole reason anybody is making that application is because they want that wow factor from the color, right? So if you have a micronutrient deficiency, an actual deficiency, which is damn near impossible to find, right? Very, very, very limited situations are you going to run into that. In that particular instance, yeah, you can go apply an oxide mix, and through exudates, the plant will be able to convert those oxides into a solubilized form that can make its way into the plant, and you'll stove off those deficiency symptoms. But you're not going to get that blue, green, beautiful aesthetic from the turf because of that application, right? Again, we're applying micronutrients typically for that immediate reinforcement of, wow, this looks great, right? So you can do that with sulfates all day long. All day long, you can do that with sulfates, right? But as you start getting higher and higher in pH, what doesn't make it in through the leaf will be root determined, right? And then after a 6 EDTA, not much of it's going to make it into the root because the EDTA molecule isn't going to protect it very well after a 6. Then you switch to EDDHA, right? EDDHA is going to protect it to 9, and is going to be very effective at allowing that to happen. But for all intents and purposes, especially for people in centipede areas, I can't think of any reason aside from worried about tank mix interactions for anyone to use a chelate. Save the money, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Save the money.
Did I answer your question?
Yep, sure did.
All right.
Sure did.
Here's a great question. Centipede lawn. Last year I had some severe damage due to large patch and moderate amount of nematodes confirmed by a soil sample from Auburn. Since then, I've been treating with Xterra Stretsguard since it contains the same active as Indemnify. Shout out Ray and Chad. Is this something I can pause on, or will nematodes always be ready to attack when my grass is stressed with disease? It has recovered nicely this year, and I'm thinking I need to be proactive from now on. For reference, my pH is 5.5.
Wow. I would probably say that if you know you have nematodes, that is something to always keep in the back of your mind. However, the fluopyram molecule has such a long half-life in soil that it can carry over for quite a while. It can last. But I know that in lawns where I know I have a nematode issue, it is standard operating procedure for me to incorporate Xterra Stretsguard into the fungicide program yearly. It's just cheap insurance given what turf loss can cost. And it's interesting that this person says that they did find moderate amounts of nematodes and he has an issue with large patch. Because I've noticed an association with nematode infestations and large patch infection. The two seem to go together.
Yeah.
So by treating for the nematodes, you can possibly reduce the severity of your large patch, because before I cracked the nematode issue, I used to have lawns on a cringeworthy fungicide program. They would be getting Lexicon one time, Armada another time, Clary 33.6 another time, and then ProStar plus Eagle yet another time. I mean,
God, man,
that to me is nuts. Yeah, Matt, I told you about that program, right? That
I feel like I need to go to church after that. I don't know why.
Yeah, that crazy expensive fungicide program. But you know what? A lot of that went away when I started treating lawns with that Xterra Stretsguard one time in spring and one time in fall. Then I'm not on edge about losing turf to large patch anymore. It's not nearly as big of an issue.
So that's almost like is that almost like a maintenance app? Say one time in the spring and one time in the fall?
Yes, sir. Yeah, one time in spring, one time in fall. 5 ounce and 5 ounce each time within label rates.
Right.
And that's just cheap insurance for me.
Ray, Evie said, does a pigment offer any advantages to the centipede? I don't know the answer to this. I would say not really, because I don't know if photosensitivity is a thing of centipede, not that I'm aware of. Y'all may know better than me, though.
That photosensitive pigment was actually intended to mitigate heat stress on bentgrass greens.
Right.
That was the specific purpose of that Stretsguard pigment, was when you're applying something like Xterra or Signature or Mirage or any of the other Bayer Gulf fungicides to bent greens, that stress guard pigment is dealing with yet another piece of agronomic management, in that I liken it to a sunscreen for the grass, because bent grass can get to a point where it's too much sun, especially if you're talking about, say, the bent greens at Augusta. That's a little bit far south for bent grass.
Mm-hmm.
So
A little bit.
they need all the help they can get. Yeah, just a little, Matt, just a little.
Yeah, I don't think the pigment is really doing anything for centipede there. Sun causing problem for centipede is that's like antithetical for why people would grow it. And then the other one is using gypsum. South Georgia and sodium accumulation there. Especially you're not going to find acidic soil in South Georgia. So no, I can't think of any reason to use gypsum in that area.
Gypsum
breaks up the soil, man.
breaks up the clay.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it breaks up clay. I mean, that's and I'm gonna introduce yet another factor that can make or break centipede lawns, and that would be high levels of calcium.
Hey, hang on. Here's a theoretical right here. Okay, so we're talking. Okay, can you use gypsum to displace chloride? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm thinking of a hypothetical here to just throw a monkey wrench into the plan.
The fortunate thing about chlorides is that given sufficient chloride-free water, you can actually push or flush
very mobile.
The chlorides out, because the chloride is a very weakly charged anion. It's not extremely well absorbed through most soils, and if we're talking about the acidic sands that are common in the Southeast, definitely no. Then any chlorides could possibly be pushed out, provided you don't keep on applying chlorides.
Yeah.
So I don't see the need to displace the chlorides off the soil in that instance. On the other hand, though, if your chlorides were carried by sodium, then actually that's a place where I don't care how you amend your soil, that centipede is probably not going to live. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to shit on my own parade there and come up with some sort of wild ass reason where we would be like, oh, you know what, gypsum in this particular instance, that's a great idea. Rescue against a year's worth of potassium chloride being applied.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Other than mechanical core aeration, what would be the best option to improve an area of hard-packed hydrophobic clay? Would I still use mason sand after aeration to help water filter further down into the soil instead of adding OM to actually retain moisture at ground level?
Wow.
All right. So we need to preface this. So the majority of the time, right, especially in Georgia, right, everybody hears, oh, I've got red clay. I've got the hardest red clay you've ever seen. And then you pull, DeMay had to go. Love you, DeMay. You pull a composition report and you find out it's like 60% sand. And I'm like, wow. All of a sudden, no, you're not really dealing with clay. So can it get hard? Can it become hydrophobic? Sure. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have hydrophobic clay, right? And if you're dealing with hydrophobicity, that in and of itself has a correction method that is not going to be entirely reliant upon an aeration. Can you aerate to aid in mitigating hydrophobicity? Sure. Is it what you have to do to mitigate hydrophobicity? No, not at all. There's tools out there that you can do, and you can use them in conjunction too. You can use a genuine good wetting agent with in combination with an aeration and get a great effect from it. And then you can also top dress with sand on top of that too. And that's also, you know, going to be degrees of improvement that you're working with there, right? So I think it comes down to this, right? It's what level of intervention do you want to undertake? You can, I would bet serious money that, or how about this? The person that asked the question, if you have a soil test, please show me that your CEC is greater than like 25 or 30. And if it is, then we'll pretend like you have clay. If it isn't, if it's nowhere in the wheelhouse, especially if it's single digit, then your clay diagnosis is already off. Yes, you could be dealing with hydrophobicity, and that's what's going to give you that symptomology of saying, "Oh, I've got really really hard pan dirt." Of course you do. It's it's not holding any water. But there again, an adjustment with something like a wetting agent can be a short-term, quick remediating thing that you can do. As you start looking for longer-term options, right? That's where you can start talking about, well, I can core aerate, collect my cores, and top dress with sand, to help improve that drainage profile. And what clay content I have, whether that's 10, 15, 20, 25% in my subsurface, that will be less sun exposed, less subject to complete and total depletion of volumetric water content, and therefore will be more conducive for long-term ability to grow things on it without becoming hard pan, right? Yeah, I think that covered everything. Ray, let me, all right, now, and to reinforce my point here, where I have someone somewhat co-sign my bullshit. Ray, how many times are you aerating lawns in a season? You got to be doing it, what, 3, 4,
Never.
5 times a season you aerate lawns, right?
Never.
Oh.
Never. Absolutely never.
What about when
Not
you have hard
one.
pan clay, though?
When I have hard pan clay, what I do is I find out, why is this clay soil behaving that way? And the two factors that I look at are high magnesium levels, high sodium levels, and a third factor is high pH. And so
in nowhere in Georgia that I know of, I don't think anywhere in Georgia are you going to run into high pH soil. I don't think that's possible.
You're not going to have high pH. You're not going to have high pH soil, but in that case, I am open to the concept that when somebody has let their soil dry down too far, it is going to become rather hard. It's going to become rather resistant to re-wetting, and in that case, I'm in favor of treating that area with a wetting agent initially and then irrigating. And here's the thing. Everybody, please knock off that meme of deep and infrequent, because that is relevant and applicable to an entirely different type of grass.
Yeah. All right. Let's go into a little bit more detail there, because this is, I mean, when people hear deep and infrequent, right? Like that's what everybody says. And then Ray is like, you know what? I'm going to rip your brain out through your ear holes real quick and tell you that deep and infrequent is a bad idea. When would you say that specifically is a bad idea? Like what composition, what soil composition are you looking for when you hear deep and infrequent and you're ready to blow your brains out?
When I'm talking about clay soils that become hydrophobic when they're made to dry down that far, that's when it's like, oh no, this is going to become a grass killer. Next situation, and this is specific, is when I'm dealing with a stoloniferous grass where all of the roots are on the surface. And you know what? We've been talking all night about a grass that is stoloniferous and has all of its roots on the surface. Centipede grass. Deep and infrequent doesn't really help centipede very well because most of its roots are on the surface. So it actually needs a little more moisture and a certain level of moisture to be maintained at that level. And furthermore, are we talking about that southeastern red clay in some cases?
Oh, hell yeah.
That southeastern.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of what you see. Yeah.
Okay, because we in Hawaii have something very similar where it's this reddish soil that's really fine and powdery, but you let that soil dry down too much or too far, you may be in for a heck of a time getting it to re-wet. The water will literally bead up and roll to the side if you've taken it too far.
I'm going to provide a little bit of context there, right? So it doesn't, if you've got great density of your centipede or whatever grass type you have, it doesn't mean that you have to get out there for 5 minutes every day and flip on your irrigation system. It's not what he means by shitting on the idea of deep and infrequent, right? But it could be one of those things that still applying water when you see needling beginning to occur, right? And then, maybe you are cognizant that, okay, I know that every fourth day I'm going to face needling, and I can pound it with an inch of water every time I see needling, or I could split it in half, right? Where I'll do an inch and a half I'll do half an inch on a 2-day interval, knowing that on that fourth day where I normally have to irrigate an inch, to offset that needling potential I would find on the fourth day, right? So that way you're maintaining not necessarily the depth of watering that you normally would in that one water event. However, and again, trying to use percolation to your advantage here, percolation rates, right, that probably aren't very high. Then splitting it up a little bit, and therefore a little bit less than what you would normally be accustomed to, and then adding that additional day to be able to get it there. Is that closer in line, Ray? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, that is. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, that's exactly. You've described my position on turfgrass watering, where I rather see 1/3 to 1/2 of an inch of water every second day, and that just keeps sufficient moisture without excessive flooding and also without excessive dry down. It's just finding that happy medium. And when you find a happy medium on the grass, that is when your turfgrass maintenance becomes relatively drama-free. Yeah. It's only when people are trying to push extremes of anything or extremes in any direction, that's when they just actually added to it. And Matt, can you talk about pushing root growth? It's unfortunate that Ryan isn't here, because I know Ryan is the person that would want to put somebody's nuts into a deli slicer when they talk about pushing root growth, via drought stress.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hem-hawing that you can do with the idea of driving roots, right? Like one of the things you can do to really, really drive the shit out of some roots is completely deplete the plant of phosphorus, right? So in the face of extreme phosphorus deficiency, you will grow the deepest roots that you could have ever imagined. So you're growing on a primarily sandy soil. that's already low in phosphorus, and you're growing something that is, phosphorus, a phosphorus user like Bermuda grass would be, and you want really deep roots, starve it of phosphorus. It is because the plant is freaking out. It's looking for it, and it's going to go try to find it every which means, ways, and measures that it can too, right? Same thing. You can dry it down to a point, because let me tell you, you miss it a little bit with trying to dry it down to drive roots. Then you've shot yourself in the foot. You foobarred yourself, right? And now you're kind of flipping that over. Same thing with running ultra lean on phosphorus, right? You can get away with it up to a point until you don't anymore, and then you're up a creek in that regard. So that idea of drivers. Well, hang on. There's it's not as simple as that. And it's the same thing. Like, when we give this theoretical example here, like, I just want to make it clear that I was using arbitrary numbers by saying, on taking every 4-day schedule down to an every other day schedule, right? This is something that each individual person is going to have to figure out on their yard with their irrigation system.
Yeah.
And their soil structure, because your neighborhood is going to be different from your other friends' neighborhood, to your parents' neighborhood, and everyone all in between. And what may be every other day on your property, maybe every 8th day on another property. You never know. So there's a lot of.
I think that's the hard. I think that's the hard thing for homeowners too, finding that happy medium, as Ray would say. Because I mean, like you said, I could water every second day, and someone can water every 6 days, you know what I mean, and still be okay and still have that sufficient soil, moisture. But I feel like people are so scared because centipede is so touchy in itself that, oh, if I water too much, I'm going to get large patch in the middle of summer. Oh, or I'm going to get, dollar spot or gray leaf spot or something in my St. Augustine or something, you know what I mean? It's just that finding that happy medium, and that's kind of what we kind of preach in the group. Everyone's different, soil structure is different, but
climate is different even.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have trees on the property? Do you not have trees on the property?
Well,
yeah,
watering is so nuanced. Like
that is super.
It really is.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. I mean, you're totally right, because I remember talking with people in the damn California or Arizona desert, and they're saying, I don't understand. I'm watering deep and infrequent, and my lawn is foobar. And I said, you know what? Stop what you're doing. Please give this grass a half an inch of water every other day and see how you go from there. Increase your water as needed if a half an inch is not enough. I mean, because they were thinking they could pound that lawn with an inch of water one time a week, or an inch and a half one time a week, and that would carry them. But reality can be is that if your water,
if you're cruising at 10% humidity and 100 degrees every day, though, like, you're
good
luck. I'm pushing my luck with Bermuda.
Yeah.
You're pushing your luck, and so conversely, I also account for that humidity factor in that when I'm dealing with high humidity environments, I then have to counsel people the other way around and tell them, look, let's try watering like maybe every 4 days, because every second day or daily is a lot, because you haven't dried down from your first watering even. So we need to give this some more time so that the turf is not in a constantly saturated situation. I mean, it's so nuanced. You're right. This is all like extreme nuance. And if anybody tells you one size fits all, rethink. Really rethink.
How much more time do we have, Matt? I've got a couple more questions.
I ain't worried about a damn thing.
So these are just a couple of questions that I've had. in my comings and goings of turf. When I think about dormancy, and how to store as many carbohydrates as possible to stave off winter kill or whatever, protect it during winter. Is there anything that I'm missing, like past promoting as much photosynthesis as possible? You throttle down the N, water and sunshine, maybe raise your height of cut a little bit, and potassium. Like, is there anything else that you would suggest? Is there anything that in a bottle or a bag that's going to help me at all? Or is it just basic management practices? That's what's going to store carbohydrates.
Foliar absorbed and plant movable carbohydrates. What do you think? A little fructose towards the late end of the season there, Ray? Do you think that's going to get us what we want?
I got a more radical idea, Matt. I got a more radical
Pop-Tarts.
idea.
Are we going to feed the lawn Pop-Tarts?
Yes.
Well, actually, I was thinking more like my maltodextrin and creatine. There. But seriously, how I manipulate carbohydrates in turfgrass involves usage of PGR. That is one reason for me to utilize something like Trinexapac, or florprimidol, Cutlass, is I want to get the grass to stop growing leaves that I have to cut off, and instead direct some of that growth and energy the other way around down to the roots, the stolons, and the rhizomes. So, and in fact, I've seen an effect. Yeah, I've seen an effect by limiting vertical and top growth. I've seen a positive effect from that.
So at what point would you, here in South Georgia, I'm in Savannah, if I was going to do it, which I may or may not do, I don't know. I do have some podium in the garage. At what point would I apply Trinexapac? At what point would I do that?
I would apply that after, as soon as your spring transition is complete and your grass is actually vigorously growing, I would be applying the lower end of the label rate regularly, and then I would cease application at least 30 days before anticipated dormancy. If I'm talking about that podium PGR, I would, and because the idea is that it may seem counterintuitive because I'm limiting that vertical growth, but then instead, what's happening is that, to a degree, that energy for vertical growth is now being redirected towards the lower half of the grass instead. So it's a different tool. However, please be careful of rates, because too much is not a good thing as well, because when you get into the world of too much, then now we're talking about rates that are overall harmful to the growth of the grass, period. Too much is too much.
And don't let that lure you into a false sense of security. Nature is a beast, right? So you can do everything right. You can have it on the best PGR program in the world. Again, the ice storm of Augusta that year. All right. I had the lawn so dialed in on PGR, I didn't have to cut it for like, I don't know, almost a solid month there at the end. And it did not come out of dormancy, property line to property line, right? So, again, everything was now, of course, I had it juiced to the holy hell. And let me tell you, this was the most artificial looking green you had ever seen centipede in your life. It was amazing. It looked like astroturf. I loved it. It didn't live anymore after that. I don't want that to lure you into a false sense of security. Ice sheeting in and of itself is just, it's you are in for the ride of your life, and you have no control over it whatsoever. So chances are just the first part that you mentioned is going to give you 98% of what you're looking for carbohydrate storage. What Ray's talking about is one of those extra spicy kicks on the back end that, comes with a significant amount of experience. It adds a little bit of a risk variable to it too, right? Like he's saying, you get squirrely with rates, and then you end up kicking yourself in the ass. So, chances are that in and of itself is going to be good enough. If you want to fuck around and find out with your podium, you got it. You're ready to, like, man, I'm tired of staring at, the money I have invested over here. I might as well set it on fire. I'll do it at this point, right? And even if you don't use it all the way through the end of the season of, you want to run half the season under regulation to see how that alters the aesthetic, how that alters the growth pattern. Does it influence weed pressure once it's under regulation? It gets insanely tight, right? Like there's lots of different variables that you can take into consideration, but I just want to make it clear. I don't want it to lure you in to think, all right, my grass will never experience winter kill if I keep it under regulation.
Well, I fucked around and found out last year, so
there we go.
I fucked my shit all up. So
oh man,
I'm sure it was
fine.
worth it.
So it's fine. It's not gonna. It doesn't scare me. I mean, my lawn now is rocking and rolling though. So I mean, like I said, I've never pushed it into decline. I've never lost large sections of my lawn. I just
you're not trying hard enough.
Knock on wood
is what I hear.
I don't know. I've done some plenty of stupid shit. Let me get y'all with another question. P levels. So for Centipede, what's an optimal P level for Centipede? MLSN suggests 22 ppm, higher or lower, or is that probably about spot on?
Oh no, you can go much lower. I think this is going to be more into who is it? Sold that was doing the work on bent grass down to like 3 or 4. I think Shaddix has been involved in that too. I would say Centipede is probably going to be tolerant into things down there in that weirdly low range as well too. I'm guessing. Ray, do you know anything different? But I mean, if you're 4, 8, 10 parts per million of phosphorus, are you sweating bullets on Centipede?
Hardly. At that point, if I'm under 20 parts per million P in the soil for a Centipede, that's when I'm relaxing. I'm not anxious anymore. Because once I see P over 25 and the desired turf type is Centipede, then I know this may not work out long term. Then, because here's why I have concerns over high P levels in a Centipede lawn. If the high P level doesn't cause Centipede decline in and of itself, here's what I have observed over the years. High P levels make other weeds that much more aggressive. That high phosphorus is instead feeding and sustaining some of the weeds. And like my philosophy on centipede grass is literally, how's this? I want it to be growing on soil that is so acidic, calcium, and phosphorus deficient that nothing else even wants to grow there. That is my ideal. Okay. I mean that's my ideal, is that I want this soil to be so nasty that the only kind of grass, weed, or vegetation that it will even think of surviving there is maybe evergreens, centipede grass, and rhododendrons. There, I said it.
And as far as an upper threshold, like what and all right, so people that want to know how to drop your P levels, bag your clippings is about the only thing you can do. You start getting into the real weird stuff after that, right? Like, and good luck. It's just you're spending money, you're chasing your tail, you're chasing numbers. At that point, you'll never be able to do it. Bagging your clippings, discarding them, right? If you bag your clippings and then redistribute it back onto your lawn, you're just redistributing the pee back onto your lawn. So, I don't want you to think that that's the appropriate thing to do too. I've seen weirder shit. That's why I say that. Anyway, I saw Evie's question. I got distracted there. So bagging clippings, removing them.
That's a good question.
Phosphites. Yes, phosphites will in turn continue to convert into phosphorus, right? So limiting phosphite use on centipede is probably a good thing. But here's the reality of the situation. Yes, phosphite is a SAR, right? So there are some weird effects that it can have a positive role on in the plant, but primarily the majority of the effect it's gonna work on is gonna be the pythium, pathways where pythium can have an effect, right? Again, there's some ongoing research with the idea of biostimulant and that aspect. Again with microdochrine patch, I think there's some ongoing work with that and some promising stuff that's happening. But in and of itself, you're thinking of phosphite in general as a pythium product, and how frequently are you seeing pythium on centipede?
Yeah,
we had a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah. I almost name dropped there and I didn't, but wait,
easy.
no, I will. That only Pat Irwin would come up with the idea that we need to apply phosphates to centipede. I'm kidding, Pat. I love you. I will arm wrestle you though, and win, by the way.
Oh man. I'm going to show up to Howard tomorrow.
Upper threshold of centipede. When are you scraping the grass and laying Bermuda sod, Ray? What is your personal threshold? Again, everybody has to establish their own threshold. This is just where Ray would do it. And I would say Ray is going to be on the more extreme end of things. And by extreme end of things is like probably at a lower phosphorus level than what most people need to do, right? So, understand if Ray's there, you want to give yourself a 50% cushion, you're probably okay.
Okay. I would probably say it's a definite reconsider your grass type over 50 parts per million. Reconsider.
Okay.
I mean, that's just fair because then again,
50?
We've had
50.
Yeah. Because then again, we've had actual experience with somebody where their turf area was carrying 100 parts per million or near 100 parts per million, and guess what happened to that lawn? That's the brand new iron cutter lawn right now.
I bet it's a hell of a lot prettier and a hell of a lot easier to maintain. Just saying.
Absolutely. I mean, you see, the problem with that high phosphorus is it may not necessarily kill the turf grass, your centipede, but how much is that going to feed the weeds? Because the other thing about me dealing with centipede is, as much as possible, overall, I like to keep herbicides off of centipede as much as I can. That's just part of keeping centipede in that happy medium is please be restrained as far as what you apply to it. And if there's something that I can do that discourages weeds, I will take that avenue.
I'll make this clear too. Someone asked earlier about herbicides, post-emergent herbicides that affect green up. Put it this way: anything that ends inside has the potential to affect a green up, right? So it doesn't matter what it is. If it ends inside, there is a degree of probability that's going to affect. Post-emergence, no matter how selective of a post-emergent it is, there is a high degree of probability it will affect green up in some way. Even things that are relatively benign, like low rates of three-way on dormant Bermuda grass, will affect the rate at which it greens up. And if you don't believe me, go try it. Go spray, a dead ass dormant Bermuda lawn with 16 ounces of glyphosate an acre, and then take the one next to it and skip the glyphosate app, and then in March, a month before it really starts to green up, go apply 64 ounces of per acre of 3-way on it, and then watch how the two green up. Guarantee you the one with glyphosate, and that would be the one that you would expect to have the delayed green up, would actually green up faster than the one with the 3-way application. And again, it's no matter how selective it is, even and mistimed non-selective herbicides too, anything that ends inside has a degree of probability that it will affect green up.
Good enough. Fair enough.
Here's another
Chad, do you have any questions?
You got another one, Steven?
Go ahead, Steven.
I've got two more. Unless Chad, you want to ask the nitrogen cycle question. Why is sulfate of potash not recommended as the potassium source on extension sites? It's usually
Good question. Why is there not a consistent soil method? Soil nutrient recommendation amongst universities or extensions? I don't know, and I'll tell you why. And I've asked this question of a similar degree to multiple different turf professors, and it really comes down to this: is that in order to get something changed, it is an absolute nightmare of an accomplishment. So the reality of it is that they're not going to be able to make a lot of changes in the literature. One, the cost to undergo that level of change is big, and a lot of these departments are underfunded as it is. Two is the amount, the body of evidence that you would have to show in order to justify that change and to justify that offense would be a mountainous task as well, too, right? So it is an uphill battle that not a lot of people want to undergo due to the amount of eyes and pressure that would be on you. And I know that doesn't sound very satisfactory, but I promise you it is a bigger task than what I'm making it sound. It sounds simple. It is really, academia is a completely different world than the one you and I live in. It is so different, right? Yeah. And this is even out. It doesn't matter if you're tenured or not. It is a completely different thing, right? So you're not going to see big changes there. And I think that's the easiest answer. And then, again, we have moved so far in the progress of establishing what the minimums for turfgrass performance is, but we still can't come to the conclusion over whether we need to be at nutrient recommendations for sustainable levels of nutrition, or how many of them I still see that include some aspect of BCSR in their recommendations too. And it's like, my God, have we not moved past this? Albrecht himself said, "Yep, found the hole. I found the hole in my argument here. It's a fallacy, but we're still using it, right?" Or the number of ones that are still recommending tissue testing for turfgrass, right? We don't need to know what critical levels are at V1 and VT3, right? We're not growing corn. That makes sense there. If we're high yield corn growers, sure, we need to be at a certain place when we go to tassel. We're not going to tassel in turfgrass. So, making sure that we're at, 0.1 parts per million of fucking boron, at June the 13th, where we have exactly, 11 hours and 2 minutes and 14 seconds of sunlight a day. And that level of specificity is moot. Doesn't mean anything, right? So, anyway, I get it. There's a lot of foobard that you see from extensions and even from extension agents, right? Because remember, a lot of these extension agents are ag economic backgrounds or whatever the case may be, right? And they don't have a high degree of specialty in turfgrass, and that's just the way it is. It's not funded. There's not enough demand for it. You would think there would be, because as an industry, clearly we're all involved in it, right? We know what we spend in fertilizer every year, and it is a big industry. But compared to ag, we're shit. We are shit. And we're still big dollars. And we're still shit. Hundreds of thousands of tons of fertilizer, effectively, that we lock up as an industry, and it ain't shit. Millions of tons. Millions.
We don't feed people directly.
We don't.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
What else you got?
I mean,
Chad, do you want to ask this question, the nitrogen cycle question, or do you want me to tee it up, or do you want me to just ask the question?
Of course, the dinosaur's going to come in with the Krebs cycle and whatever else is going on over here.
No, it's nothing like that. It's nothing stupid like that.
Yeah, I'll let Steven ask that question.
So in a situation where somebody has a tree in the yard and they've got it removed, right? And they grind the stump down and there's the wood chips and whatever, and they sod over it, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of times you'll see where the turf doesn't perform in those areas, and you'll have to add, additional fertilizer or what have you. What's going on in that situation that is causing that turf to underperform and be thin and discolored?
I'll preface this by saying that it's not always the same thing. It could be a couple different things. Again, and I step it back into C to N ratios, right? You've got, we think about the rate at which organic matter decomposes, right? You hit kind of max rate of composting or decomposition or mineralization or whatever, by adequate soil moisture, adequate soil temperature, and the appropriate C to N ratio, right? You get skewed one way or another, and then weird things start to happen, and like you skew too high on the nitrogen side, then you may have an over rate at which you're accumulating nitrogen, right? And then you go the other way, and then you're not getting enough production, and so you have to skew it one way or the other. Then the other aspect would be composting in and of itself is hot. It's hot. It's why when you go turn a mulch pile at Site 1 to go get your yards of mulch, the motherfucker's steaming. How many times have you seen a mulch company's pile just spontaneously combust and ignite and burn for days? Just days and days and days it burns, right? Well, effectively, that could be what's happening subsurface too, right? So it may not just be an excess of nutrients. It might not just be deficient of nitrogen. It could also just be a pure temperature standpoint as well too. Ray, I'm sure you've got more. I don't know. You may even know some shortcuts on trying to figuring out the right way to approach that. What is your take on it?
What's my take on it is the presence of undecomposed or yet to be fully decomposed organic matter, and that heat produced by when that organic matter is attempting to decompose, that heat is literally enough to kill plant roots, because average decomposition temperature is 150 degrees, right? That may not seem like a lot, but what I know about heat and its effect on plants is that if you can maintain 150 degrees over 2 hours, things die. They're dead, done, gone. So if you can imagine a tree stump or piles of wood chip underneath sod, and all of that starts to decompose and get hot and stay hot for the entire growing season, the grass is going to have a problem. The grass is going to have a huge problem. And the other factor to consider is in that decomposition process, that organic matter is also sequestering nitrogen that the grass otherwise needs for growth. So there are multiple factors that are going to make it rather hard to grow grass on wood chippings or tree stumps. It's just many things are working against you. And my last bit is that this just popped up in my head is what if it were possible to rapidly oxidize that organic matter?
All right, this is where we start getting into like some real fun shit, right? And actually I do want to talk about this a little bit because there is ongoing work in various parts of the world specific to this, and the idea is mitigating the accumulation of organic matter in sand-based growing mediums like golf greens, for example, right? And there are some people in South America that are really, really deep and have developed highly effective programs at mitigating organic matter accumulation without aerifying and sand filling, right? And this is through the use of what's that? What were you gonna say?
However, what they're using to mitigate that organic matter is not a joke. I mean, this is so fucking hazardous. I cannot emphasize how hazardous this is.
AKA, no one needs to be doing this. No one needs to be doing this. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, because Matt, what exactly are they using to oxidize this organic matter?
Strong oxidizing agents, namely hydrogen peroxide.
Yes.
Shit.
Okay, and everybody is thinking right now, what is so horrible about hydrogen peroxide? All right. Hydrogen peroxide, that 3% solution that you can buy from CVS, that is relatively harmless. However, what's being used in this work to decompose organic matter in sand and soil is they are dealing with 30% hydrogen peroxide. And 30% hydrogen peroxide is violently reactive.
Ray, and to put it like when I say that you're teetering on the edge of disaster by doing this, Ray, what happens if you were to mix, say, I don't know, say you go out with an application of potassium nitrate or ammonium nitrate, and then you come in behind it with a 30% solution of hydrogen peroxide? What could you expect to happen?
Good luck.
Or you mix it in the same tank. Yes.
Yeah, or you mix it in the same tank and
rest in peace. Literally, you run the risk of dying.
Yeah, because hydrogen peroxide is, as an oxidizing agent, means that it oxidizes whatever it's going to oxidize instantly, right? Now, to give you an idea, Matt, solutions of hydrogen peroxide over 3% will literally bleach and burn through skin. Okay? Never mind what that does if that gets into your eyes. And I haven't even gotten into how high concentrations of hydrogen peroxide can react with any kind of flammable material. Because, hydrogen peroxide is what's used in these rockets. You admix hydrogen peroxide with a fuel, and this stuff is so reactive that you don't even need to ignite it. It will self-ignite. So when somebody is talking about using hydrogen peroxide, that even gives me pause. And by the way, I have dealt with hydrogen peroxide in high concentrations. It is not a joke. This is serious.
Yeah. Anyway, that to show you the extreme, like of where you can go with degrading organic matter, right? That's like the opposite end of the extreme. Your best bet from a homeowner standpoint is removing absolute as much as humanly possible, because the level of weirdness that starts to occur with any amount of leftover wood in the ground, especially if it's dead, right? Like At a certain point, at a certain depth, right, you've still got like a root system. The wood is still wet, right, where it hasn't started to fully break down. It's like why with firewood, you got to let it cure, right, before you can throw it in. It's still wet, right? So while it's still wet, not a whole lot of weirdness is going on, but it reaches that standpoint of drying out where decomposition can begin. Then it starts to get really weird. And then you're throwing fertilizer on top of your grass on top of that. And of course, your root system is developing and dying and it's depositing too, right? And you think about it for people that are gardeners that do the compost thing, you think about it mixing the browns and the greens, right? Effectively, that's what's happening in your soil too. So you're reaching that standpoint of 140F, 150F, 160F, and then you're throwing more nitrogen on top of it, right? And it could be getting hotter and hotter, and then again, you're at 140F anyway. Your plant roots are never going to make it, and then you're scratching your head. I don't get it. Why does it keep doing this? It keeps dying in the same spot every year. Well, of course it is, because 6 inches down, it's 150 degrees down there. It's not going to work.
Too hot. Way too hot. Bottom line.
Well, that's all the questions I've got. Who's got another question? That's all I got.
What you thinking over there, Chad?
I was just
he's thinking.
See if there were any others that we may have missed. So that's all of them from the post, Stephen.
I'm going back to the post right now. There may be some easy gimmies in there.
Some stragglers.
Yep, we'll give it a few more minutes. It's already 11 o'clock. I'm sure y'all are ready to wind it down as well too. I will say that I actually really enjoyed this. One, I love what y'all do with the group, by the way. I think that's great and it's commendable. And I wish, like for instance, I wish Bermuda lawn dominators functioned like your group does, right? It's funny when we're looking for things like legitimately in our Discord, I have a section called Clown World Lawn Care. And this is for like, stupid shit we see out in the world on a day-to-day basis. And 98% of it comes from Bermuda lawn dominators, and it's just like, man, it is unbelievable what comes out of that group. It's not to say everybody's in there stupid. There's a lot of really bright people that are in there. It's just, you see a higher degree of inanity that tends to come out of it. And that's not a fault of the group, I guess. It's just, it is what it is. You probably have more people that are trying to tackle Bermuda. And, it ends up happening that way. Like I'm sure, occasionally, time to time, how many people come in and tell you you're all stupid idiots for not using Milorganite and water on your centipede because that's all you need to grow to have great grass, right?
All the time.
It is another one of those things that makes you want to bang your head on the wall. It is what it is, though. But seriously, y'all, what you got?
I was just gonna say here's two last easy ones.
Perfect.
Best way to control and kill centipede grass in a hybrid Bermuda grass lawn, and are there are temperature restrictions like on herbicides or what have you? The actual temp, or is it the real field temperature?
Ooh. Let's see.
So the first one is killing a centipede in a Bermuda lawn. This is what's hilarious about centipede, and another one of the many millions of reasons why I hate it is that you can have a patch of centipede in a Bermuda lawn, and you can go spray it with glyphosate, and it won't do anything. And then you can have a beautiful, beautiful stand of centipede and go spray it with a 1/4 of an ounce per acre of metsulfuron methyl, and it may not ever look right ever again for 3 years. It's fascinating that way, and I don't understand it. That being said, there's a lot of options that I've seen just it does not recover well from. Especially some of the more sensitive sulfonylureas. Like I ran a lot of Monument. It's something that I prefer to use in a backpack scenario, especially as a kicker to whatever else I'm running. Right, having that Monument in there. Plus, we'll say I like sulfentrazone in it, and then maybe a touch of 2,4-D ester or just a generic 3-way in there, right? I mean, that was very broad spectrum of what I could get in one backpack. It killed sedge, it killed all kinds of fun stuff, buttonweed. It was just a great little app. You're muted, Brandon. I can't hear you. Did your microphone disconnect?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still cannot hear you. Look, he killed his earbuds. Nope, can't hear you now either.
Okay, still not coming through.
I've an app like that, I've never seen Centipede come back from. Like someone saying, right, busy saying, Monument, sulfentrazone, MSM, at label rates kills it. Yeah. I've never had it survive that. Going up with just quinclorac and thinking you're going to get it in one application, chances are there's going to be a fair amount of it that ends up recovering. You go spray a centipede lawn with quinclorac, it's dead. It's never coming back. It's the end of the world. Literally, it's like it's like painting it with acid or something. It's not going to come back. But a patch growing in Bermuda grass, it's going to eat it up, no problem.
I have an alternate approach that I know. I turned the Greek geek onto, this for maintaining a monostand of Bermuda in an entire neighborhood full of centipede. You know what I told him to do? Start feeding his Bermuda with that cheap 111 from the co-op. And you know what that cheap 111 is? Muriate of potash and ammonium phosphate.
You could probably get away with like a little bit of sodium chloride in the tank too. Bermuda's going to be tolerant of it. Centipede's not.
Yeah,
if you're
table
looking for
salt
something
is
to play around with,
is another option. Just a little sprinkle of that pool salt or water softener salt. Done. Here's another one that I've used on centipede that kind of shocked me. Revolver. Do not get revolver in your centipede either. It's not a good idea.
I've seen some centipede survive revolver. I can't say I've with 100% of the time it kill centipede and Bermuda grass with revolver.
Okay, and Evie, I just saw something from Evie in that he touched on another good point. If you have centipede growing in your Bermuda turf, you need lime. Your pH is not high enough. That is the other little piece of this puzzle, is that if somebody has centipede commingled with their Bermuda, I would ask to see their soil tests, yeah? And I want to know, how's your pH and your calcium and your phos levels doing right now? Are
creating
you
an environment not conducive for the survival of centipede effectively?
Yeah. You favor the Bermuda by jacking that phosphorus up to over 100 parts per million. You favor that Bermuda by keeping your pH at 6.5. You do those things, and my guess is that here's where I've seen mixtures of centipede and Bermuda. I've seen it where that poor Bermuda is starved for calcium, starved for phosphorus, and it's obviously thinning out from the low pH. That's where I've seen both centipede and Bermuda in the same place. And that's where I tell people, hey, I think we need to pick one turfgrass and manage this area in a way that that favors whatever you've decided to keep or have. We got to pick one here.
What else?
There's just that last question about temperature restrictions on herbicides. Is that the actual temp, or like what you're feeling, the real field temperature?
Nope, Brandon still can't hear you. I would go off. Shit, I would go off actual temp. I don't know, Ray. Where would you would go off actual temp? Because if I went off real feel, I'd never be able to get applications done.
Yeah, you'd never be able to spray. And then the
real feel was like 100 degrees at like 11 o'clock this morning here. So I mean, the feel heat index.
But the way that I would look at this, though, and I frequently get asked this too, is that, all right, what I'd actually be looking at is what are my projected temperatures for the next 14 days after I've made this application. Because when we play this game of, it is early morning or it's evening and it's only 75 degrees, I'm golden. And then for the next week, my daytime highs are peaking at mid 90s. And if I'm dealing with something where high temperatures increase risk of injury, I'm probably going to have a problem. I'm probably going to have a bad problem, irregardless of what the temperature was when I actually made the application.
It is is it going to be the determinant factor that kills the grass? No, probably not. But the amount of damage that would be unsightly, that if you did not adequately prepare the customer for, and it might be a tough conversation that you're going to end up having to have. Telly Coleman, only put monument on Centipede if you're okay with it dying.
If you want it gone, you send the monument.
Brandon can't talk, but he's saying that his Centipede, his neighbor has Centipede, and of course it's wanting to move in on his Bermuda, and he's trying to create an inhabitable environment for it with higher phosphorus and higher pH. Exactly that. Keep us posted on how that goes. I'm curious. And then, of course, also with your herbicide selection there, too, I'm curious how that ends up playing into it. I doubt you're having to do just a whole lot of blanket spraying as of yet, but, at some point you will be in a position where you end up having to. And then I'm curious if that further stoves off the rate of encroachment from it, because, again, it just gets weird. Just for shits and giggles, I'm curious, do y'all get fireweed real bad down there, American burnweed, like in that weird period of March, April timeframe? Yeah.
We do, yeah.
So, that may be one of those instances where you catch yourself having to make a blanket application, and then, encroaching centipede is going to be unhappy, depending on what your herbicide selection is. If you're going out with MSM, maybe not, but if you're, just spraying a 3-way or whatever, then chances are you're probably making the centipede unhappy.
That reminds me of something that I once did to myself that scared the heck out of me, Matt.
What did you do?
Apply Trimix Southern at label rates to centipede.
Was Trimix Southern the old formulation with monosodium methaarsenate?
No, sir. That was the Trimix with.
Was it Trimix Plus? I can't remember what it was called.
Trimix Plus was the MCPP, MSMA, and dicamba. That was Trimix Plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Trimix Southern was high rate MCPP, low rate 2,4-D, and low rate dicamba.
Okay.
And when I applied that to a centipede turf area at label rates, I scared myself for the next 2 months.
Ray carried a couple extra sets of underwear in his truck on those days, just in case he drove past the lawn and had to change it. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Seriously, Brandon, Steve, Chad, thank you for coming on. We'll have to do this again. It was a lot of fun.
Thank y'all.
And
it was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we can also play around with other grass types too. In fact, I would love to do one on St. Augustine as well too, because I know that's a whole animal in and of itself, and I hate that grass second only to centipede. So, and then after that, maybe we'll do Xeon Zoysia and just get the top 3 right out of the way, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. All right, thanks guys. For everyone in the chat, if you are dealing with this and you want to go hang out with these guys and learn more about what they're going on, I am throwing the link to their group in the chat. Go say hey to them, support what they do, support their businesses too. Brandon, Chad, show them some love. If you need to get in on United Rentals too, show Steve Chaddy some motherfucking love too. By the way, do you know any employees up here in East Tennessee? Because I'm going to give you a guy's name, and he is legitimately one of the greatest guys I've ever worked with in my life. And I'll DM it to you and see if you can get any inside baseball on him, because he is legitimate an awesome guy. I love him. All right, y'all, have a great night. Thank you for everything. We'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good show, J Pink.